Honorable Men Discord. Let's talk about the Michael movie. Let's talk about it.
How you see yourself is how you perceived. I see a man strong, gifted, head strapping, never down on his knees, begging. Gotta make a way, even in my darkest hour. Say the odds against me was new. I would never cower.
As always, welcome back to another episode. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Tell a friend to tell a friend. I drop episodes daily at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Listen, make no mistake about it. I am excited. I am super excited. I am elated. I am flabbergasted to talk about the Michael movie. And yes, I'm late to the party, but I don't care because anytime I show up, that's when the party starts. Okay? So, I just saw the movie this past Saturday. Yes, this past Saturday I just saw the movie. Not only did I see the movie this past Saturday, but I also saw it in Times Square on 42nd Street, which I haven't gone to a movie out there in a long time. And I saw it at AMC. Why I'm bringing up AMC, why I'm bringing up Times Square is because I'm going to address a few things before talking about the movie. And this will be somewhat of a spoiler, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, you're free to turn it off now. But I'm sure with all this stuff on social media, TikTok, Instagram, about this movie, particularly TikTok, you may have caught wind about the movie. But let's get straight to it. I saw it in Times Square, and I'm going to shout out AMC, but not for good reason. Before this film came out and when I saw the trailer, I knew I wanted to see the film, but I'll be honest, when I saw the trailer, I was a little bit worried because when they showed the camera panning over the crowd of people, the sea of people, I was worried that there would be too much CGI involved in the film because the crowd didn't look real to me when I saw that camera shot. And I know the film is about Michael, it's not about CGI, but I get worried from time to time that Hollywood overuses CGI unnecessarily. With that being said, after seeing the film, I was fine with the shots of the crowd because they had to embody the crowds that this man, when he was alive, drew. He drew massive amounts of people to his concerts. So with that being said, I got past it right away. But let's go back to AMC. Tell me how only the second week of this film being out, AMC had no promotional material in plain view. Now, the AMC that I went to on 42nd Street, for those of you that live in New York, the theater that I watched it in, I did not see it in IMAX, unfortunately, but it was fine. I enjoyed myself regardless. But I had to go up at least 2 to 3 flights to the floor in which the film was playing. Now, I don't know if it was playing on other floors, but for my tickets that I had to go up to like 2 or 3 levels up. Whilst doing so, I saw not one huge poster of Michael Jackson. Now, I don't know if it's a Lionsgate issue. I don't know who's responsible for it. But of all places, when you're talking about a theater in Manhattan, Times Square, 42nd Street, you would think theaters would rush to get promotional material out there. And this is only week 2. So I don't want to hear anything about, other movies were coming in, because what other movie matters when Michael drops? All right. Aside from what Marvel's about to bring at the end of the year. And even then, let's just say Marvel came out with the movie and Michael, I would expect both of them to be heavy on the promotional material, which AMC in Manhattan did not have. Now, across the street was Regal. I don't know what was going on at Regal. Let me know if you saw the movie in Manhattan. Let me know if you saw it at Regal on 42nd Street. Let me know if Regal had proper material. But AMC had nothing but a standard size poster that I could fit inside of a bedroom on the wall, which was lame as hell. All right, but that's enough with AMC. I had to take my shots at AMC because that was such a disappointment. And as a Michael Jackson fan, I feel as though it seems as though someone was trying to sabotage this film. Aside from the horrible reviews it got before it actually came out, I'm not even talking about the reviews that actual fans or fake critics were putting up there to sabotage the film. Now, with that being said, enough about AMC. I want to address American... Hold on one moment. I have it actually queued up. I want to address An American Dream. All right, the Jackson movie. Because a lot of people have been referring to that film, and I had to refresh my mind to know whether or not I saw this or not. And from what I was looking at, I do believe I saw this, but I haven't seen it in a long time. But I did put on a few clips prior to shooting this because I want to be as accurate as possible in talking about this. I want to be as fair as possible. But let me start with this. First of all, keep in mind that movie that everyone's referring to, An American Dream, which I'm looking at on my TV behind this, it's called The Jacksons, An American Dream. So when people are talking about, oh, they didn't dive into this character, the movie that I watched on Saturday, I don't know if you guys watched the movie, it was called Michael. It was not called The Jacksons. It was not called Janet Jackson. It wasn't called, it wasn't named after Michael's children. It wasn't named after, it wasn't called Michael the Lawsuits, and so on and so forth. And I'm saying that to say this, a lot of the criticism is like, what do you people want to see? All right. Furthermore, The Jacksons, An American Dream, part one ran for about 2 hours. Let me click out of this so I can get the actual time. And now it disappeared. Okay, part one ran for 2 hours, 19 minutes, 15 seconds. Part 2 ran for 1 hour, 29 minutes, and 31 seconds. So combining the two, it's just under 4 hours. All right? Just under 4 hours. Right? And yet there were people comparing the Jacksons movie to Michael's movie. Now, as you all know, by the time of this recording, they're lining up to they're gearing up, I should say, to do a part 2. And there's a little bit of discrepancy because the director is gearing up to film something for Netflix with Denzel Washington, but the producer or co-director may be starting that film at the end of this year, 2026, and maybe early 2027, so that they could have it ready by sometime 2027, probably latest 2028. But I'm assuming they're trying to rush the project because they're seeing the tremendous support for this film and the reviews that the fans are saying, despite the fans that are, or critics that are bashing the film. All right, so for those of you that felt like something was left out of this film, that's the reason why I brought up the fact that they're already planning to do a part 2. How could they not? I mean, you got TikTok capitalizing off of Michael Jackson. That's another thing I want to make sure I get into early before talking about the film, because I don't want to forget. TikTok started a Michael Jackson page, and it's less than it's only a few weeks old at the time of this recording, and I saw it go from where it was at one point at 1 million, and at the time of this recording, it's at 4 million. All right, and as a matter of fact, whilst I have everyone's attention, I'm going to look right now at Michael, where he's at. Okay, of course, it's making it a little difficult for me to... One moment. Take me to the page. All right, he's at 4.1 million at the time of this recording. But trust me, he's going to be at 10 million before the summertime. Easily. It's May. By July, I expect it to be 10 million or more. And quote me on that, all right? But with that being said, let me just say this about the TikTok now. Who's capitalizing off of the Michael Jackson TikTok? I hope the family is associated with this. I know after his passing, Sony was able to gain ownership of his catalog, which I believe his catalog also included some of the Beatles and other various artists. And I want to know who's capitalizing off of the TikTok. I hope the family is eating off of this. All right, who decided to put the TikTok up? Because clearly they're paying attention to how this movie is racking it up in the theaters, and they decide to now put out a TikTok, along with Lionsgate knowing that, listen, we have to jump at this while it's hot. Let's make a part 2, possibly a part 3. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes up to part 3. All right, and hopefully by then everyone will be satisfied with part 2. And possibly maybe a part 3. Now, let me get into the film. The film was phenomenal. It was excellent. There's not one actor in this film that dropped the ball. Everyone deserves a standing ovation. Every last actor in this film deserves a standing ovation. All right. Now, An American Dream had Angela Bassett playing Michael Jackson's mother, which usually when you mention Angela Bassett, it's like who could follow her up as far as female actors, and there's no one, pretty much no one. But right now you could say Viola Davis. I would respect that. I would have never thought that, and not to say Nia Long's not a good actor, I would have never thought I would say this, but Nia Long held her own just as well as Angela Bassett. If you disagree with me, I'll see you in the comment section. That's fine. But again, everyone did an outstanding job in this film. Every last person. Lorenz Tate, you know, I love Lorenz Tate when Nia Long and Lorenz Tate were in Love Jones. For those of you old enough to know Love Jones, to have seen it when it actually came out, not because you heard about Love Jones and then you watched it after the fact, but Nia Long and Lorenz Tate were phenomenal in Love Jones. All right, and they did it again with this Michael movie. All right, but everybody, the father, excellent work from the father, and everyone nailed it. So that I don't understand where the complaints coming from. As far as like the timeline, you're telling a story of a man who started off as a very young kid up until he passed at 50, even though this movie didn't end at his passing. There's a lot in there. You're never gonna fully get it, and that's fine. Now, I believe this film was intended to make sure that it brought the warm, kind emotions that Michael Jackson stood for in all of his material and his music. This movie, was about the good in Michael Jackson that he was trying to give to the world and trying to get he was delivering to the world, and he was trying to uplift the world despite all that's going on in the world with war and famine and sickness. That's what Michael Jackson stood for in totality. Now, all the other things that he's experienced within his life were a product of why he decided to make the worldly music he made. This film was to embody what he stood for, which was peace and love and uplifting people. That's what this film accomplished. This film was not about, oh, why they leave out the allegations. They didn't talk about that. Or why they glazed over Joe Jackson. He wasn't beating the kids like he did in American. Listen, they weren't trying to make the Jacksons' American Dream. Just stop it with the Jacksons' American Dream already. All right. And I went to the scene where the father spanked Tito, right? And it was very dark. If you go back to that movie, they shot that scene with the spankings. It was dark lit. The cinematography was intentional to make you feel the horror and the fear that the children had to their father. Listen, you got to understand, and I told this to some of my colleagues that I spoke to about the movie. Why would the Jackson family, the living members, why would they want to relive that? See, as fans and spectators, it's so easy to say, oh, they left out the certain things that weren't so pleasant. But understand, the family now is much older. There's generations of Jacksons, all right? There's grandchildren and so on and so forth. What makes you think they want to watch that? All right? It's so easy to critique this film while you sit there with popcorn in your hand and a cold Pepsi, because you're not entertained by the lack of seeing the horror or the hard times, the hardships that this family went through. Is it possible they wanted to put some of that behind them? All right? Is that possible? What would make you think a family would want to see that? How many of you watching this and have gone through any type of hardships within your family, which I would like to say it's somewhat common, and I guess maybe it's not common, but I didn't grow up with a perfect family situation, right? But you think I'm gonna green light shooting a film showing it close to the reality that I had? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't care about the world's enjoyment for the sake of sales or the sake of more subscribers. I know some of you, it seems like that's what this world is all about now. It's we'll give you everything for the sake of, let me get more subscribers, let me get more likes, let me be more popular. But no, at least not the generation I come from, and they're ahead of my generation, the Jackson family, right? They're a few years older than I am, so no, they're not gonna green light that. All right, so sorry for you guys that wanted to see a lot more dark sides of the Jackson family's experience when they were children, particularly Michael, up until he became successful. Now that I got that out the way, let's go into these reviews and what people had to say. And yes, I'm biased. I only put up the reviews of people that enjoyed the film as I enjoyed the film. So let's get into it.
So the Michael Jackson movie today, in a word, it was sensational. Don't listen to these people online who are whining about the movie. Oh, it sucked. They left all this out. All this stuff that should have been in the movie they left out. First of all the stuff you're talking about, they've already covered it and litigated it. Second of all the stuff you're referring to happened in a timeline after this movie ended. And third of all, if and when they make a sequel, maybe they'll put all that stuff in the sequel, and then you could shut the hell up and skip down the road. All right, let's talk about the role of Michael. They auditioned everybody under the sun for this. All the Michael Jackson impersonators auditioned and failed, couldn't make the grade. They went through extensive auditioning process over a year. They weren't even thinking about Jafar. And then finally they thought about Jafar, and Jafar had to work with dance and vocal coaches for over a year, even before he was able to audition. Just to audition. They wanted to make sure he could do it. And boy, did he deliver. Every beat, every dance step, every turn. And I don't know how he did it. He must have been channeling his uncle, Michael, because his voice was 100% right on. You know, this would be a pretty scary challenge for a trained actor to do this film. But for someone who has no acting experience, Jafar has zero acting experience, and he carried the whole film. If you're going to go see the movie, see it on a weekday, first showing of the day. And just hope you don't wind up sitting next to someone who won't shut the fuck up. Well,
excellent film. Let me just say this. Antoine Fuqua also directed Training Day with Denzel Washington. As I said, the talks of a part 2 is already in works. They absolutely want him to direct it, but he may have to come in towards the middle of that part 2 filming, because he's going to be filming something for Netflix with Denzel Washington, whom I'm surprised to hear that, because I thought the movie with his last movie with Spike Lee was his final movie role, because he did say he was going to wrap it up. He didn't want to be in front of the camera anymore, but I guess he changed his mind. So we'll see what that movie is. I'm a Denzel fan, so I'll be looking out for that on Netflix. Jafar Jackson, phenomenal. To be able to nail Michael Jackson's voice as well as his dances, he nailed the dances. I paid attention to everything. I paid attention to his actual feet, his hand placement. Incredible. I couldn't find an error. I could not find an error, as many people have gone on to say the same thing. I've heard reviews that I don't have right now queued up. I've heard people say that if Jafar wanted to go on tour as Michael Jackson, people would buy tickets to see this guy perform Michael Jackson's records. That's insane to have somebody say that about your performance, that they're willing to go to your concert that's not even your music. Just you performing as Michael Jackson would have people buying tickets. Whether or not it would sell out arenas, I don't know, but people are loving his performance on that level. All right, young Michael was phenomenal too. Giuliano Valdi, young Michael did an incredible job. I didn't mention that earlier, but I will mention it now. Coleman Domingo as the father. I didn't have his name queued up. Coleman Domingo, phenomenal job. Nia Long, I mentioned Nia Long. The bodyguard that played the bodyguard for Michael Jackson, he did a phenomenal job, and he didn't have a lot of lines. Sometimes it was just a matter of how when Michael would look at him, how he looked at Michael, it said a thousand words. Phenomenal work from the whole cast. Listen, I expect a clean sweep at the Oscars. If the Oscars play around with this Michael movie, they should start a riot. All right, the cast should riot just off the fact that you're disrespecting us. All right, and when I say a clean sweep, I expect to see awards to the people behind the scenes that you may never know who they are because their name is just in the credits. They deserve an Oscar. The director deserves an Oscar. All right, the cast, every last person, wardrobe deserves an Oscar. The editors deserved an Oscar. I love the way the transitions were. I loved it that I love the way they chose to do close-ups on certain things at certain times when Michael Jackson was in his safe space, his quiet space, his man cave, so to speak, looking at his itinerary of songs listed against the wall. I love the close-ups of those things, of the pictures of Michael's face. You know, even when he went to get the nose job, the close-ups of the side profile close-ups and things like that. I paid attention to it all, and it was all phenomenal. All phenomenal. So let's get into this guy's video.
Jackson deserves an Oscar for this role. I have seen Michael, the Michael Jackson biopic, and this movie blew me away. Yes, I'm a little bit late to the party, but I also don't care. Growing up in a household that always listened and watched Michael Jackson, my family wanted to find the right time to go see the film together, which is what we did, and we saw it today. And this movie was fantastic. This is one of my favorite movies of the year. They managed to achieve something really special with this one, and this was a movie that when I first saw the trailer, I first heard that this was coming out, that I did not have high expectations for whatsoever. But my God, was I wrong. I was blown away. My entire family was blown away. I have to say, Jafar Jackson did such an incredible job capturing his uncle Michael. He encapsulates him so well. The mannerisms, the voice, just the movements, the dancing, everything. And if you look at all the behind the scenes or all the press tour and the talk shows, you can see how much time, hard work, and energy went into this role. And of course, being his nephew, he wanted to do right by Michael. Honestly, everybody did a great job in this, but I want to give another shout out to the man Coleman Domingo. This guy just continues to prove that he's just got more and more and more versatile levels to him. From the acting to the story to the musical segments to the preparation of Michael just figuring out the little beats that go in between each song. I feel like they did such a wonderful job. The story of Michael Jackson is so beautiful but also really tragic. And if you've ever been a fan of his, you can't help but feel heartbroken for him. This guy was so misunderstood, and the amount of hate and disrespect and how much people still try to take advantage of him, mainly for his money. Listen, this man wanted to spread love, positivity. I genuinely did not expect to feel as much emotion as I did, and it was just at such random points of the film too. A lot of the main concert scenes when Jafar Jackson is up there portraying Michael, I just honestly, man, it just came over me. I got teary-eyed at points that I didn't expect to get teary-eyed. Things hit me more than I thought they would. Now, I do understand the frustration with the way that the film ended. I didn't think that it would stop at that time of his life and then kind of hint towards another film to follow up. I feel like if they were going to do it all, they should have just done it all in one movie. All I know and want to say is that this movie was something special. And I know Jafar Jackson really felt that as well. Just the fact that they filmed in specifically Thriller, the same filming location that Michael Jackson filmed in. That and the clothing and just the dance moves, of course, the moonwalk and the tippy toes. Oh, I don't know what to say. But this was such a tremendous surprise to me. And it is without a doubt one of my absolute favorite movies of 2026 so far. I mean, I was sitting in the chair and I was bopping to the music. All day I'm talking with it. Jafar Jackson deserves an Oscar for this role. I have seen Michael, the Michael Jackson
Listen, I agree. I was stomping my feet and moving around in my chair. It was that good of a film. And listen, I don't want to take away from the thoughts of the family members and friends and that may not completely have liked this film, but you got to understand, this is a large family. Again, years removed from Michael's passing, like 20 years removed, grandchildren, and probably grandchildren had children at this point, you know. But with that being said, you're not going to please everyone. Family, you're not complete. You're not going to please. I don't know why I'm struggling to get that out. You're not going to please the critics, the world. But with that being said, it's phenomenal. The numbers are showing that it's phenomenal. All right. Never mind what my opinion is on this. Look at the numbers.
There's one thing that pissed me off about the Michael movie, and that was the fact that it was 2 hours and 30 minutes. It should have been 10 to 12 hours. Great movie. Jafar, excellent job. Little Michael, excellent job. Whoever the casting director is, they need an Oscar. excellent job with the casting. Editing needs an Oscar. I love that it kept momentum throughout. It didn't go down rabbit holes, which would be easy to do. For instance, they talk about Jermaine stayed at Motown. It was said in passing, and they kept it moving. They didn't go off on rabbit trails, which is so easy to do because Michael had so much in his life that was going on. I see why the critics hate it, because there's some haters. This film was 100% made for fans, and that's what was needed. It was a concert. We got to see the human side of Michael. We got to see, he has to deal with all these insecurities because of how he was raised, the trauma he went through, and I'm glad they didn't go deep because I didn't want no doggone trauma. I didn't want to deal with the weight of trauma. So they showed Joe, but they didn't show everything, which I appreciate. Just give a snippet, give us an understanding. Okay, this is what it was. It was far worse, but I don't want this deep trauma. I didn't want to have that energy, and I'm so glad that they didn't do that. Fantastic. They need a continuation of it for sure. The money it's making is crazy. If you haven't seen it, go see it. Excellent freaking movie. There's one thing.
Let me say one thing. So the last video that I did on Michael Jackson, which was horrible because my internet went out on me while I was recording, I didn't get a chance to speak on the impact that his music... Well, I did speak. I roughly spoke about it. Or quickly spoke about it. Listen, I just have to say this. This man has been praised for Thriller. He's been praised for Off the Wall. He's been praised for Bad. But I'm here to tell you, nothing hit for me. And obviously, he was doing a lot of those albums came out just when the year I was born, and as I was continuing to grow into adulthood, right? So for me, the biggest impact, and it's not just because I was older, but at 16, when he dropped History Continues, what a phenomenal album. You can't tell me that that this can't stack up against any of the other albums we mentioned that the world loves. You can't tell me this doesn't stack up with Thriller. You can't tell me it can't compete with Off the Wall. And you can't tell me it can't compete with Bad. Because let me tell you right now, right? To start off the album featuring Janet Jackson, right? With Scream. Then right after that, They Don't Care About Us. Then right after that, Stranger in Moscow, which might hands down be, if I had a top 5 Michael Jackson list of music, of his music that I love, that I just resonates with me, it wouldn't even be the ones that everyone typically go for. Like, people are gonna scream, "Beat It Is Mine," Billie Jean. They're gonna yell out all those cliche hits, in my opinion. Stranger in Moscow, including the video, excuse me, including the video, Stranger in Moscow for me has got to be my number 1 Michael Jackson record, and it's a toss-up between the number 1 and 2 spot for me is Stranger in Moscow, and on the same album, Earth Song. I mean, listen, that man didn't even need to do... That album has 15 songs. He didn't even need to go to all 15. He could have did 1 through 5 and end the album. And I would have still said the same thing about it. Being able to be lined up against Thriller, Off the Wall, and I know I'm not saying it in the order, but Thriller, Off the Wall, and Bad. If this album right here, History Continues, if it was only 5 songs with Scream, They Don't Care About Us, Stranger in Moscow, this time around, and Earth Song, it's still a phenomenal album. And I stand on that. My number 1 and number 2 songs for Michael Jackson are those two. Obviously, when he was younger, I love, like I mentioned, Maria and the other songs that he sang. First of all, the Jackson 5 Christmas album. I could just make this episode like an hour long. The Jackson 5 Christmas album, I'm going to say it. I know a lot of people praise Mariah Carey's Christmas album, and yes, staple in the household on Christmas. Mariah Carey, phenomenal Christmas album. If we're going to talk about the Mount Rushmores of Christmas albums, The Jackson Christmas album is up there, all right? But even as a Jackson fan, if you know me, which none of you know me personally, maybe some of you, I stand by this what I'm about to say, and I know I'm going off right now, but we talking music, so I'm a music guy. Stevie Wonder's Christmas album has to be the greatest Christmas album made on this earth. Fight me if you want. I'm saying it over the Jackson's Christmas, which I know this is about Michael, but Stevie Wonder's Christmas album is the greatest Christmas album ever created. Period. I don't want to hear about nobody. Michael Bublé, whoever you got, the Temptations. Nah. Stevie Wonder Christmas is the greatest. But this is a Michael. I'm sorry I digressed. This is a Michael episode. Let's get into the next video. All right.
This movie's so confused because the early reviews are disrespectfully inaccurate. I just got done watching the new Michael Jackson movie, Michael, and I'm convinced some of y'all just want to be different or hate everything because this movie fucking phenomenal. And to think that I almost listened to the online critique and skipped going to the movie theater because now that I've seen it, I don't understand the negative reviews. The acting across the board was strong, from Coleman Domingo playing his father, Nia Long playing his mother, Giuliano Baldi as young Michael, but Jafar Jackson exceeded my expectations. There were moments in the movies where I actually got chills from how freakishly close Jafar's look was to Michael. I've seen people complain that the performances were too long, so y'all are gonna really sit here and tell me you didn't like the Human Nature performance? It literally felt like you were watching Michael himself. I've seen people say that the movie was missing a lot, but I was actually surprised at some of the things that they did include. I thought Abuse by Joe was going to be taken out, but they didn't completely avoid it, which was so important because it showed you how much it actually had an impact on Michael. At the end of the day, it's not a documentary. There's not going to be every little thing included. With that being said, I would 100% watch this again. Boo to Rotten Tomatoes. Definitely worth the watch. I walked out of this movie.
Well said. The final thing I have queued up. This is just to show you the emotion that the movie left people with. So I'm gonna play this, and I have just a few more things to say.
Is anybody else feeling extremely maternal towards Michael Jackson after seeing that movie? Because it's not even funny, and it's not even freaking funny. Why did his brothers not play Twister with him? And why was everybody so mean to him for no reason? He had to go get a monkey to be his friend, and everybody acts like he was so weird, but he was just misunderstood. It's not even funny. Everybody was so mean for no reason. It's not funny. It's not funny.
All right, so I'm gonna end that there. I just wanted to show the emotion that the movie evoked. Let me say this because I want to end with saying this because I think I said everything that I had planned to talk about. But let me say this. The irony in Michael Jackson's story. First and foremost, let me say this. Greatest performer ever. Is Chris Brown a better dancer than Michael Jackson? He's elevated the dancing. He's doing backflips. Chris Brown took it to another level. I honestly believe in some ways when we're talking about actual dancing, Chris Brown would be the Kobe to Michael Jackson's Michael Jordan. All right? Now, Chris Brown himself has said he avoids conversation like that because he views Michael Jackson as the world views Michael Jackson, which is he's out of the stratosphere. All right, so let's just say that. All right, so the conversation about Chris Brown, yes, Chris Brown has taken it to another level. Like the kid is doing, the young man, I should say, not even kid. He's taken it to levels that is unmatched. He's mastered so many different facets of dancing. I have to salute Chris Brown. So let's be clear on that. But Michael Jackson was the overall greatest performer that the world has known, and it's evident in what's going on with his TikTok, with this movie, with this whole catalog. All right, now as far as when we talk about a superstar, an icon, a megastar, Michael Jackson is on another stratosphere. Whether the world has been doing its best to try to not make that a reality, it's too late. He's too far gone. All right. And I say this with all respect. I know it's going to come off as blasphemy. But outside of Jesus and biblical characters like Moses and the 12 disciples, all right, Adam and Eve, Michael Jackson's name is in there, all right? So I'm not going to disrespect biblical characters. I'm absolutely not going to disrespect Jesus. But with that being said, after you go through biblical names, of course, Jesus at the top. We all know Jesus' story, regardless if we're Christian or not. If you even from another faith, if you're atheist, if I say Jesus, you're going to know who I'm talking about. Michael Jackson's in that category, which is insane. I don't care what artists you like. They're not that world known to the point where you can say that their name is almost synonymous with biblical figures. All right, so that's why I had to address that conversation that's been going on online. No one that you like. I don't care about the Taylor Swifts. I don't even care. And I'm a fan of Kanye now. Ye. He's not there. All right. He's definitely well known, but he's not there. Drake is not there. Kendrick, don't even bother saying Kendrick. They're not there. They're not Michael Jackson level. Michael Jackson is out of the stratosphere. Let's just end that conversation. Now, another thing. The irony in Michael, his whole entire existence is, and I know some people are going to say, oh, you always got to bring it to race. Listen, this world was built around race. I don't care what anyone says. You don't have to like that I bring up race. I bring up race because it's a reality. Just because you want to act as though it doesn't exist and you don't want to talk about it doesn't mean it's not a reality. Michael's whole entire existence, including him suffering with the discoloration of his skin, it had to do with race. From his changing the way his nose was shaped, it had to do with race, not being accepted. And this is the irony within the black community, all right? And I'm not going to go too deep into that. But he struggled with being made fun of by possibly siblings, his father. I'm going based off of what the movie said. I wasn't in the household, so I'm not here to say that was the truth. But what I'm trying to say, he struggled with the fact that his nose was shaped a certain way, and he changed it. You could say he changed it like Peter Pan. Okay, we can argue he changed it like Peter Pan. But who else's nose is shaped like that outside of Peter Pan, which was a fictional character, excuse me. All right, it wasn't African Americans with noses shaped like that. All right, so he looked at those that were quote unquote in power, those that were the majority, and he changed his nose. Where am I going with this? Michael Jackson's struggles is the story of a black man in this world. All right, I'm not saying all black men are rushing to change their nose and things like that. What I am saying is that he constantly was fighting against the reality. The reality is, does the majority, those in power in the music industry, want to see any black artists at a level like Michael Jackson? No. Do they want to see anybody at Michael Jackson's level, Prince's level? At one point, Sam Cooke was trying to align himself with ownership and so on and forth. They don't want to see you have ownership of your music, all right? They do not want to see you have ownership on that level, particularly a Michael Jackson and Prince level where they were trying to take it, where Sam Cooke was trying to take it. You know the Sam Cooke story? Go look into Sam Cooke's story and how shady that was, the way he went out. Anytime you try as a minority, particularly a black man, all right, to get ownership on that level, they don't want you there. Just entertain us, let us rob you, let us steal from you, and we're happy with where you are there. We don't want you sitting at the table with us. That is the story of Michael Jackson. That's part of the story, because that's not all his story. Despite all of that, he was still making music for the world out of love. He was making colorless music. Yet they still tried to change the narrative of the type of person he was, because they wanted you to remember him as a pedophile, which he was not. All right? That's what they wanted the takeaway to be. You think they really like to see the fact that this film is doing this well? After all the years and work they put in to try to sabotage the man's name? They didn't want to see this. But then the irony in that too is that now that Sony owns the masters, right, the catalog that he once owned when he was alive, they can go ahead and capitalize off the fact that now Even streams, they said he's breaking records with streams. The man's not even alive, 20 years removed, and the streams are breaking records. This movie is beginning to break records. No, it is already breaking records, and it's only in the second week. All right. Again, the TikTok, who is benefiting off of this? That's the question. If you have the answers, I want to see that in the comment section. And I hope the majority of the people that's benefiting from it is the Jackson family. His children, the grandchildren, I hope they're benefiting from it the most. But the truth is, I highly doubt it. And again, his story was the fact that the world, particularly those in power for all these years over black music, all right, they weren't expecting a black artist to ever be that good. Yeah, they know we could play ball. They know all of this about us. They know we're inventors. They know all of that. But they never want to see you get to the level where you're a black version of a Elon Musk. They don't want to see that. You think they want to see that? Absolutely not. You can be partners. You could be someone that that's in the company, but they don't want to see you as the top dog. And that's the problem. That's the real problem with Michael Jackson and his existence. And he fought that all the way through with class. Because again, the album that I loved, right, at 16 years old was History Continues, and he made music for the world. Stranger in Moscow, Earth Song, that's the villain that the world has been trying to that's the person who the world's been trying to make a villain. This is why I just miss me with the bad talk about Michael Jackson. All right, just miss me with it. Because in my eyes, he's done more than good. He's done more good than he's done wrong. All right, and as far as the allegations are concerned, again, I said this in the other episode, those allegations weren't they weren't true. The children, some of those children came forward, if not all of them, and I believe they were saying they were coerced by family members, parents, to say those things. But listen, just do yourself a favor, buy a ticket, and just go see the movie. And if you still didn't like the movie, watch it again until you like it. That's my thoughts on it. But listen, I appreciate everyone for tuning in. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Tell a friend to tell a friend. I drop episodes daily at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And as always, stay honorable.